And we are in a new world tonight, altogether new world. After, let's see, 8 years, about maybe 9, whenever they first started turning on Trump, the media has been completely the servant in the most disgusting, corrupt, horrible way you could possibly imagine. Something totally un-American, something more similar or maybe worse than the news services in communist and Nazi lands. They covered up for years and years a hard drive that contained massive evidence of the Biden crime family, 30 plus years of crime, taken down somewhere around $50 million in bribes. They still continue to cover it up to a certain extent. They played as if it was real for about 5 years, the Russian collusion story, won Pulitzer Prizes and other things for it. Turned out to be a total fraud, paid for by the Democrat candidate, $1.1 million, created completely a work of fiction, and they never gave the Pulitzer Prize back, even though they perpetuated a completely false story. I can go on for all the things they've done. Until recently, they hid everything about Hunter Biden, even accusing me of being a Russian pawn, which they eventually had to retract and change. And now all of a sudden, like that, they have become anti-Biden. According to his very well-regarded, very trusted aide, KJP, everyone believes her, she says that the media is part of, along with the Trump people, of course, although it's hard to know because the media gets things before the Trump people get their hands on them. But the media is doctoring video to make it look like Joe Biden is demented. How about that? After all these years of being his plaything, of kissing his ass, all of a sudden they're attacking him and making up videos that make it look like, well, he's kind of a zombie. Wow. Now, we're going to have to see if that continues, if that attack on him continues. But I mean, this is really terrible. This is really so unfair. It's so unfair to paint Joe Biden as if he's demented. I mean, this is the guy who told us directly from his own mouth that he saw Franklin Roosevelt reading the comics on television. Now, it turns out that Franklin Roosevelt died before there were televisions. I bet the media made that up. I bet. There's also the guy that told us he was first in his law school class any number of times until they checked that he was third or fourth from last. I bet they made that up also. I bet he either was first or he never said it. This is the guy that copied Neil Kinnock's speech and plagiarized his life. He said, my family has been in the coal mines for generations. Nobody in his family had been in a coal mine except an accountant who worked for a coal mine. But I bet they made that up too. He said that at his inauguration for vice president, his father came up to him and reminded him that his uncle had gotten and refused to accept a medal during the I think it was Second World War, Korean War, one of the wars, the Purple Heart. And he said he thought about it and he went and searched, found the Purple Heart, and several months later had a beautiful ceremony at the White House which he gave his uncle, the Purple Heart, who either turned it down or reluctantly accepted it. I don't remember. But here's the part to remember. His father was dead 5 years before he was inaugurated as vice president, and his uncle 7. And there's no record, of course, like almost everything else Biden says, of his uncle getting the Purple Heart, or his grand uncle or grand something or other being eaten by cannibals. It turns out that his plane went down in the ocean. And he was never eaten by cannibals. And he got the people of, I think, was it New Guinea, Ted? Was it New Guinea? Did they get all angry? Yeah, well, okay, they don't have nuclear weapons. They got real angry at him because they sort of have given up.
Not happy. Let's see. I'm looking that up.
2 centuries away from cannibalism, so they haven't had like an eating for about 200 years. So there are no Biden leftovers anywhere in New Guinea. But they must have made that up. I bet he never said that. And I bet
Papua New Guinea leader takes offense after Biden implies his uncle was eaten by cannibals there.
Yeah.
The prime minister.
But they must have made that up, right? Only a demented person would say something like that, right? Only a demented person would think he saw Franklin Roosevelt reading the comics on the television when Franklin Roosevelt was dead before there was television. Only a demented person would think he was dealing with his uncle and his father 7 and 5 years after they were dead.
Yeah.
Right? I would think only a demented person would lead to the conclusion by the prosecutor that he can't remember enough so that he can be prosecuted. Apparently, according to the prosecutor, although they are holding back the video of this for dear life. I mean, they're holding on to this like if you get it, they're all going to drown. Maybe we could settle it all by just putting out the videotape of her deposition. What do you think? Maybe we could find out if all these things that we're seeing about Biden are just a mirage created by a press that's now turned against him, and to some extent by Trump. But I mean, a lot of this stuff comes out there before Trump people can get their hands on it. So it's that nasty press that's doing it to him. So why don't we see, is the press onto something here? Is Biden demented? Or are they making it up and he's like, he's perfectly normal old Joe, who then must also be the dumbest man I've ever known. So please, that wouldn't be much of an improvement, but at least it wouldn't be a classifiable mental illness. Now, let's listen. What shall we do? What shall we look at? Should we look at the big liar first? Pierre Carini Pierre.
Yeah,
let's look at her. I mean, she was all upset about this.
So I'll play this earlier. Was this today? I believe. Just gotta get it now. Earlier today, Kareem Jean-Pierre.
Question since former President Trump was convicted. How is it not a threat to democracy when you have a prosecutor from the same party as the president waiting 7 years to prosecute the political opponent in an election year?
I'm sorry, I don't.
How is it not a threat to democracy when you have a prosecutor of the same political party as the president waiting 7 years, the crime happened in 2017, to prosecute in an election year a former president who's now...
That's a question for the Department of Justice on their timeline and how this moves. I can't answer that for you here.
Well, that was the wrong one, but it does give you an example of what a slimy liar she is. I can't answer that one for you. The answer is obvious. Of course it's political. How do you end up with 4 prosecutions in 1 year? How about when she's, I'm obviously going to play her slip later, her Freudian slip later.
You want to play? Which one of hers did you want to play there?
No, now I want to play. Now I want to play the one in which he says that all the audio and stuff was rigged by the press.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Well,
If we have that, let's show
show the actual clip.
Look, you can make up your own mind, right? Take a look at it, make up your own mind. Is this guy working with a full brain, or is he working with see, I think he's working with less than a quarter. So I think he begins working with half. I'm telling you, honest to goodness, before he was demented, he was as dumb as you're going to, unbelievably dumb. That's why we always say he was the dumbest man in the Senate, well known as the dumbest man in his law school class, introduced to me that way many years ago. Cheated his way through law school. Should have known that his essential character was complete amoral dishonesty. You can make up your own mind whether he had frozen there in a thing that happens to people who are demented, and we think we've seen him do that before. And Obama, to save him embarrassment, grabbed his hand and took him away before he stood there any longer. He did. Now, they say he was participating with the crowd. Well, that was earlier. At that point, his face looked like a zombie face. I do believe that that's a quantifiable symptom of dementia. Of that. How often does he do that? So often that we couldn't find all the clips of it. So now the press says that that was totally rigged. I'll tell you, if anybody rigged it, it was Obama. Obama's grabbing his arm like that and keeping his arm behind him so he goes in a steady direction. Makes it look like Obama is afraid that he's going to turn around, as he has in the past, right, and go out the other way. It looks like Obama is worried about his dementia and taking care of him. Or is Obama setting him up? So let's take a look at it. These all happen within 3, 4. Well, do an older one.
Well, this is him confused on stage.
Okay, so this is the history. When you look at these, it's an unbelievable history of these. We just looked a little bit today to find a couple of these, but I mean, a couple of ones that we remembered. I think we'd come up with about 20 or 30 of them if we really did an encyclopedic presentation during his presidency of his inability to figure out what direction to go in.
Mr. President, thank you. At the end of such a momentous event, the word thank you seems kind of inadequate. But for all the millions whose lives will be saved, for the...
You do notice that while the guy is still talking, he walks off. Ultimately, after all the confusion, did he go the right way? Didn't he go the right way? Did he get off at the right time? While the guy is talking and thanking him, he walks off the stage ultimately because he doesn't know what the hell to do. Now, was that staged? Or does that look like a doddering old man who has a mental illness? That looks to me like a doddering old man with a mental illness, which is why Obama was being solicitous of him. He might do that. He might. I don't know if we have the one where he goes back and forth 2 or 3 times on the stage. When he tripped at the Air Force Academy. I think we have another one, him going back, him turning around, not knowing which way to go after a speech. See, you got to put these in context. Like they say, well, the Georgia Maloney one, he saw some actors or people over there. But he's supposed to be in the moment over here. One of the signs of dementia is getting easily distracted. To me, like, he got easily distracted when nobody else. How come nobody else was looking at that interesting thing he was looking at? Because he lost the moment. He didn't remember what he was doing. He didn't remember why he was there. It's like when he gets confused when he's talking and he stops, he mumbles and grumbles, and then he says something stupid. Because doctors have explained this to me. Part of dementia is loss of short-term memory. This guy has such serious dementia, I am told, that he loses short-term memory in the moment. Like right now, I forget that I'm talking about Joe Biden. And I do well, today the Yankees, how do the Yankees do today, Ted? You know, that he does that all the time. This goes back to when he couldn't do what was it, the Pledge of Allegiance, right?
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, you know, the thing. They even use as an example in the VDM-5, they often say the thing, meaning demented people often do that. But what I can diagnose for you completely what happened with Georgia Maloney. Do you want to show that?
Which one?
The one with the leaders of the free world that he's supposed to be with, and he gets
arguing about this one too.
Well, yeah, because they see he was being friendly. He's being friendly toward a skydiver. He looks like the kindergarten kid in the group.
Yeah.
Who can't stay with the group. It happens to be a pretty important group. I think he forgot who he was with. He got distracted by something interesting that would attract a year-old or a puppy, right?
Right.
And he lost his concentration, which is because he now has an infantile mind. That's what happens when you get dementia. You regress. You can't stay on point. You can't stay in the moment. Nobody else, it couldn't have been that interesting. Nobody else looked. Nobody else waved. Only our 4-year-old mind president did it. I mean, that's garbage to say that was staged. It's quite obvious what happened. I didn't think he was just looking off. He was distracted by somebody when a normal adult in a situation like that would not be distracted. He'd have enough concentration to stay within what he was doing. But I'll tell you exactly what happened from the doctors that I've talked to about this, going back to the podcast I did 4 years ago. He has extremely excessive loss of short-term memory. They describe it as in the moment. I don't remember. And then maybe somebody, well, I actually had a hamburger, but I could have said, well, I had chicken, or I didn't have dinner. Or I might say to Ted afterwards, if I have dementia, I had a friend who had this. I might say to Ted, what are we having for dinner? And Ted will say, well, we had dinner already. That's the normal loss of short-term memory.
Yeah.
Extreme short-term memory is, again, I can't remember right now. I lose the memory of what I'm talking about right now. Boom. And now I am floundering. You can see him do that. I'm floundering for what the hell I'm going to say. He calls that stuttering. That's when he goes, and then he goes off on something, and you wonder what the hell's the connection between those two things. The connection between it is his his form of insanity or brain loss of brain power. The brain cell that was containing the thought burned out. Now he's trying to come up with a new thought, and he can't remember how to connect it to the last one. This is the guy that's got the button that could destroy the world, and we put him there, and we're lying. They're lying about him. KJP, beyond anyone, knows that he's dotty old. He's a dotty old man who shouldn't be there, except she wouldn't be there either. Nor would stepmother-in-chief be stepmother-in-chief. She wouldn't be able to push everybody around and create trauma for her unrecognized step-granddaughter who she wouldn't put out a Christmas stocking for. It must be a really nasty, mean person. So what about, we got a couple of others.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Just pick a few.
Play a couple.
Because this doesn't come up, this comes up in an encyclopedic group of demonstrations of this, where you've got to lie to yourself not to accept it.
Well, look, there's so many even recently, Mayor. Let's play this one from a Juneteenth event just a couple of weeks ago.
Which like a zombie. He's got a catatonic look on his face. He looks like he doesn't know where the hell he is. And he doesn't know where the hell he is. And that guy's got to bring him back into the moment the way Obama did. I think that's Floyd's brother, right? Has to bring him back into the moment. Hey, Mr. President, you're here with us. Oh, gosh, I thought I was playing with one of my dogs that bit the Secret Service 22 times. That's a wacky thing too, isn't it? You know anybody who's got a dog that bit the mailman 22 times? He's got a dog that bit the Secret Service 22 times. 3 hospitalizations. You take your dog after 2 or 3.
That's absurd.
I mean, obviously there's something. I mean, I am a great believer that dogs are malleable. You can take a pit bull who's been trained to be a fighter, and you can straighten out that pit bull. And what does he have? A German Shepherd, I think. And German Shepherds are wonderful dogs. I mean, somebody said, "Oh, they're very loyal, and they might think that the Secret Service is threatening them." 22 times? Maybe you got the wrong German Shepherd. Oh, maybe you got the wrong owner. I tend to blame it more on the owner, particularly since I know the owner's got a history of acting like a zombie, wacko, mean bastard. Probably treats the dog horribly, treats him the way he treats his kids. Look at the way he treated Hunter. Takes a kid who's addiction prone and puts him in business with the worst criminals in the world. I mean, he knew he was in business with Zlochevsky. I mean, he lied about not knowing, but it was in the New York Times in 2015 that he was doing business with the biggest crook in Ukraine. And he didn't tell him, I mean, forget vice president. As a father, you take him the hell out of it. Particularly if he had already just been thrown out of the military for being a drug addict. You got a drug addict working with a major organized criminal, also partners with Whitey Bulger's nephew. You let your kid do that? And you're not a mean old bastard doing that? Worry just about yourself? We're going to take a short break. We'll see if we got a few more of these. But you're never going to convince these people because they're liars. They're liars, and not only that, they're traitors. If you sit by and you watch this kind of mentality serving our country at the highest level, you hate this country. Don't tell me you have the slightest bit of caring for this country or the slightest bit of principle or ethics or decency. Because the president affects all of us. And there are people dead because this nitwit is in the White House. We'll be right back. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. That the Biden tapes are altered to make him look like he's demented. You don't have to alter tapes to make him look like he's demented. Let's be adults with each other. Let's be Americans with each other. He is demented and he shouldn't be anywhere near the White House. He shouldn't be anywhere near a position of responsibility over the lives of others. And when you look at his record, he's exercised that responsibility in a grossly negligent, irresponsible, reckless way. One example, taking the troops out of Afghanistan before the civilians, getting the civilians killed. Second example, acting like a little doormat for Putin in Afghanistan and then repeating it for 2 months as Putin baited him. And he kept repeating, oh, no troops on the ground, no troops on the ground, no troops on the ground, no boots 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 on the ground. I am afraid of war. I'm afraid of war. Please don't. Oh, a little attack, small attack, that's okay. That's okay, Vladimir. That's okay. Let's not have a big one. And by the way, we'll fight, but we won't win. Ukraine won't win because we don't want to have a war with you. So you can take Ukraine. They'll kill you there, but they won't kill you in Russia. Oh, maybe the first mile, but not beyond that. And I'll be very slow in giving weapons to Ukraine so they can protect themselves in Ukraine, but they won't do any damage to Russia. That's the way a lifetime KGB killer would interpret our little weasel rat of a president. He'd look at him and say, what a piece of crap. Where the hell they get him? Man, oh man, if we had him here, we'd have him in some hospital. How did they elect him? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. American people, for electing him. Whether you cheated or not, I don't know, but you sure gave me a break. And my friend Z is very happy too, because he got about 10 years ahead on his goal of trying to take over the world. He now already has a bigger Navy than you have. So I guess we're going to see in this debate how they get him prepared. Looks like they're locking him up until then. I think it's like a chamber, and they're going to try to like infuse through osmosis some brain cells in him, which would be good because he didn't have many brains when he was a kid. So just a few brain cells it might make a big difference. I don't know how we could have a worse president, and we're going to talk about the polls later. And it's getting trounced pretty much, but it's ridiculous that he's got the number of people voting for him that he does. What are you, crazy? You absolutely crazy? Look, he is the creation of the Biden illegal alien crime wave, which is getting really bad. And a lot of it's been hidden from you because these things don't get covered as alien crimes. You got to dig it out. You got to dig it out. We've been telling you that for a while, and it's starting to come to the surface now. But I mean, there's a. I'm thinking about Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez, who murdered Rachel Marin. Now, the murder, remember, was back last year, so it's quite a while trying to find him, and there really wasn't much emphasis even when it was found out that it was an illegal alien who did it. There wasn't much emphasis on it being an illegal alien, but he isn't just an illegal alien. He crossed over 4 times, and he's wanted for murder in El Salvador. And we couldn't. The Salvadoran government, is somewhat responsive. They could have been notified, and he could have been turned right over to them, and they could have put him in jail, and then Rachel Marin would be alive. If we had a responsible administration, if we didn't have a major criminal like Mayorkas running, and a major criminal like Biden in charge, can you see the picture of Rachel?
Yeah.
That's Rachel Marin. She comes from Maryland. She has 5 children. Back in August of last year, she went for a walk or run in the Ma and Pa Tass. It's a park in Maryland, and Martinez Hernandez caught up with her there and beat her, raped her, killed her, and she was actually on a run, right? And just like Laken Riley in Georgia, who was killed by a Biden invitee, she was killed by a multiple-time Biden invitee, who we can say with great confidence wouldn't be here if it weren't for the fact the American people made a tragic mistake. And she'd be alive today if they hadn't elected Biden as president. Trump had it down to 400,000. Biden's last year were 3.4 million. Trump turned back many people from countries like El Salvador, much larger numbers than he did others. Remember, he was criticized for that. The chances this guy would have gotten in are very, very small, probably non-existent under Trump. And in fact, had he been caught once, he'd have been handed right to El Salvador, and they'd be told, stick him in prison, damn it. So she's an easy one to say. She'd be alive if we hadn't had the fraud of the 2020 election. If the press didn't cover up the hard drive and then made it impossible to really challenge the election by accusing everybody who challenged it of being criminals. I mean, up until then, Hillary was still denying the 2016 election. But we're all being charged with a crime for fighting an election battle in court and in the state legislatures. And this dictator in the White House is charging us all with crimes, wants to put us in jail for the rest of our lives. You think I don't think that Biden's a dictator? I know a dictator when I see him. He's a guy who wants me to put me in jail for something that isn't a crime for the rest of my life. That's what he is. And it's not just me. There are lots of people he wants to do that too. But he doesn't want to put Victor Martinez Hernandez in jail. If you want to take a look at the timeline, which I have here, it's extraordinary. It's absolutely extraordinary. This is completely ridiculous.
I got it up.
You got it up? Do I need to do this?
No.
Okay, then I'll just go through it. So in January of 2023, Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez allegedly kills someone in El Salvador. And then, I guess to escape that, he crosses into the United States twice that month in El Paso. So he comes over, they send him back, comes over again. Then he goes to New Mexico, and then he goes into New Mexico, where he gets nabbed and he gets booted from the country. Doesn't get turned over to the Salvadoran police, or El Salvador is not notified to come and get him. This guy, after all, is wanted for murder in El Salvador. So now he crosses over again and he gets booted out again, but just booted out. No notification of this criminal. And the fourth time he comes in, he's undetected. Now, what category does he fall in if undetected? It's the category they never talk to you about, and I talk to you about all the time. They always talk about two categories. They get a little late on the second one. The category number one are the number that are intercepted and put down for a hearing. And that's the number that was 400,000 under Trump and 3.5 million under Biden, except Biden let almost all of them in, and Trump got rid of about half of them. So the numbers are even much more different than that. But then there's a second group that you've heard of, the gotaways. The gotaways are a group that they chase, they get to see, they get to make a record of some form of identification of them, but we never capture them. So we know that this illegal's in the country who's, 6'2" and whatever, but we don't know much about him. And that's in the millions. And you can imagine most of those are criminals, right? And then there's a third one, and you can imagine almost all of them are criminals. Those are the ones you never interview at all, although I don't think we even interview the people that we stop anymore. The last couple of whistleblowers have said they haven't done interviews in a couple of years. And we know the Chinese get 4 questions, down from 50, because, it was taking too long for the illegal Chinese to get in here. So Biden wanted to make sure that the country he owes so much to, is treated, well, look, he escorted the spy balloon all over the country to take whatever pictures they wanted to take of our military installations. And then he called Z, made sure it was okay, and then he took down the balloon very, very safely, so it didn't hurt any Chinese, and they had all their pictures before he took it down. So he's very accommodating to our enemies. And he was very accommodating, obviously, to Martinez Hernandez, who on the 4th try, unfortunately for Rachel, is undetected. So he's in that group that we never see. We never see them at all, not even as a gotaway. Now, that group has been estimated by studies done. The most authoritative one, I think, was MIT, maybe University of Pennsylvania, I don't remember, but they estimated 50%. In other words, if you pick up an arrest coming in, including the asylees, and they all claim to be asylees, only about 5% really are, about 50% more are going to come in, not as gotaways, but completely undetected. And then a lot of people think it's more than that, double to 2 times. Time 100% to 200%, let's say. So if we have 3.5 million that would say another 1.7 million got in and nobody ever saw them. He'd be in that group. He was undetected. That means there's no notation of him anywhere. As soon as he gets here, he attacks a 9-year-old girl and her mom during a brutal home invasion in Los Angeles. Now that was helpful in catching him because they picked up the DNA there. Between then and August 5th, he's we don't know. You can assume he committed crimes. That's what he does. And I mean, it is pretty clear that for every crime you catch somebody for, criminals like this who are career criminals, they probably commit 8 or 10 more. So let's see if he gets tagged with a few more. But he doesn't really have to be, because the crime that he now commits is horrendous. On August 5, 2023, the Biden invitee ends up in Maryland at the Ma and Pa Heritage Trail in Bel Air. Rachel Marin, around 6 p.m., goes for a run. And by 11:30, she's still not home. Her boyfriend calls, and her body is discovered the next day in a culvert on the trail. She's been beaten, killed, and raped. By August 17, they match that DNA to the DNA of the man who brutally beat the 9-year-old girl and mother in Los Angeles. And they have doorbell surveillance footage of him from back then. And that's released to the public, and they released a sketch in February of 2024. And then in May, they identified Martinez Hernandez, the Biden invitee, as the rapist and murderer. And then on June 4th, they arrested him in Tulsa, Oklahoma, casually sitting at a bar, enjoying his freedom in the United States, which hopefully is now going to come to an end. He waived his right to an extradition hearing, and he'll be sent back to Maryland to face charges in Marin's death. I don't know that Maryland has the death penalty. It probably doesn't, because it's been run by liberals, including liberal Republicans, for so long that they probably prefer the rights of criminals over the rights of innocent Americans. But if he does have the death penalty, he certainly sounds like a guy who would be a good candidate for it. Because nowadays, if they put you in jail for the rest of your life, they let you out. Since Andrew Cuomo signed the law in 2019, something like 29 cop killers have been released who were supposed to spend life in prison. And some of them are advising Black Lives Matter, so they can carry on the policing tradition. Thanks, Democrats.
Crazy.
They have to count on the votes of the criminals, so that's why they got to get them out of jail. I mean, it's the criminals and the illegals they bring in that are going to keep them around as a political party, not the way they run things. My God, they're destroying America, absolutely destroying America. So that's one rape. But right here in New York, on June 13th, on a Thursday afternoon, right after school, in a beautiful park called Casino Park, which used to be really very peaceful when I was the mayor and has become very dangerous under the Democrats, a 13-year-old girl and a 13-year-old boy come home from school were approached by another illegal, turns out from Ecuador. Yes, came in under Biden 2021. And he's got a machete. He takes the machete, he takes them into a grove or into a hidden place. He ties their hands and he sexually assaults her. And then they observe a tattoo on him. He was caught yesterday. He was caught in an interesting way. They put out a picture of him which I used to really like to do, and had many of these where the community helped me catch people. And the community, people in the community recognized him as someone they saw going to this particular delicatessen. Yesterday, early in the day, one man particularly saw him go in the delicatessen. He grabbed a group of his friends and they stayed at the deli all day, waiting for him to come back that day or the next morning. I think at about 1 a.m. he came back. They grabbed him. They say they had difficulties holding him and they beat the shit out of him. Yeah, that's what I said. They beat the shit out of him. And one guy actually says, I won't tell you his name, and if I was his lawyer, I'd tell him to shut up. He said, well, quite true. Some of them are saying, well, he tried to get away. But this guy said, we beat the shit out of him. Yeah. We don't like stuff like this. You know what happens to these people in prison, right? Even prisoners don't like this crap with 13-year-olds and 12-year-olds. And one of them said, Rachel Marin's family, of course, were very, very critical of the person who invited this guy in. The Marin family lawyer, they don't want to make it political. He believes the tragedy came down to Biden not being able to stop the flow of illegal immigrants. You're damn right it did. I mean, how many more do we have to have of these? Lake and Riley, these two kids, Rachel Marin, the police officers who were shot by the guy from the Venezuelan gang on the moped, stealing stuff, who also beat up an older woman. How many more of these crimes are we going to have? There are a whole group of other crimes that he's being looked at for too.
That's right, Mayor. And just a quick update on some elections tonight in Virginia's 5th Congressional District Republican primary. John McGuire, who our viewers saw and met with us down in Palm Beach, leads incumbent Bob Good. John McGuire, endorsed by the mayor, but also endorsed by President Trump, leads Bob Good 51.2% to 48.8% with 79% reporting. So very close, about 1,000 votes separate the two. About 1,000 votes separate the two with, and again, there's still about 8 to 9,000 votes left. And so it depends on where those votes are.
And which district is it?
Virginia's 5th district outside of Charlottesville. Trump endorsed Bob Good's opponent. Bob Good's considered a conservative member, but he went for DeSantis in the primary.
It's more than that. He's also been very, very critical of President Trump.
Yes, he used to be, not anymore, but no.
Nasty and
yeah. So John McGuire is someone who met with us on the show. So those will remember back in. He's a veteran.
About a month ago, right?
Businessman, good man.
Any other news from the different elections?
I'm looking up some other races, but that's the one of note right now, and we'll give some more updates here shortly.
Let's close off this thing on.
We have an interview. We have some video from. We have a picture, and we have a video of an individual who helped apprehend.
Now let's show that they got any video of him trying to escape, and they're working him over.
We have some pictures of that here. I'm putting them up right now.
Anybody got a problem with their working him over? Let me know.
Yeah, there he is. He's literally like tied up between those two.
Well, they had to tie him up. I mean, he would run away and rape somebody else.
Isn't that just that? Here it is. He's a migrant, or do we know if he's illegal?
Yeah, he's illegal.
Okay, because everyone says migrant.
Yeah, well, they don't put the word illegal in front of it.
Yeah.
Yes, he's an illegal migrant. He's an illegal alien. That's actually the term, alien. The term in the law is alien, not migrant. They say migrant because they want to make it euphemistic. But the term in the law, alien, means foreigner. But they want to do the best they can. They want to do the best they can to make it acceptable. So he is an illegal alien.
That's right.
He came in from Ecuador in 2021 under mass amnesty Biden, who did grant mass amnesty to illegal aliens who marry U.S. citizens today. It will encompass a couple million people who never legally came into the United States or processed within the United States. So we have no idea if they love our country or hate our country, but we're going to allow them to be citizens when the only thing that holds us together is our belief in a common set of values. We have no idea if these people believe in our common set of values or not. They could be another one of these guys. Like, by the way, this guy's name is Christian Giovanni Ingalandi. And as I said, he came in illegally in 2021 from Ecuador, and nobody did a damn thing about him. And he had a machete, and he sexually assaulted a 13-year-old just a week ago. And we can thank Joe Biden for that one, as well as the death of Rachel Morin. 53% of Hispanics favor mass deportation. So don't give me this Hispanics want illegal immigration. Like hell they do. They probably oppose illegal immigration more than most. And they probably are more law and order oriented than most. Always been true. Look, I ran a city that, and while I ran it, the biggest minority group became the Hispanic group. One time you could say the Jewish people, or another time you could say blacks, and now it's the Hispanics. And I'll tell you, I saw it in Washington Heights. When I came into office, there'd been a big riot in Washington Heights under Dinkins, which he helped to create by false information getting out about a shooting, which he didn't correct. And when I was in office, it became a very peaceful community. And when it had a blackout in '98, every blackout up until then, we featured looting during the blackouts under Koch and Beam and under Democrats. And Lindsay, I think, who was like a Democrat. Under me, there was no crime in Washington Heights. It had become a very nice community, which it is. It can be. Well, we're going to be back in a minute, and we'll take a good look at where politics is right now. And since we just did that 53% on the Hispanics, we'll take a look at some of the key states and where they stand, and we'll have Ted bring us up to date on whatever is going on today in the primaries.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50%, and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Go look it up. Oh, welcome back. We're looking for the statement by the biggest. Well, she's not the biggest liar. The mouthpiece for the biggest liar, who finally told the truth and then had to take it back. But let's see if we can find it. It's a Monday, Tuesday statement of the truth and then retraction of the truth. So let's take a look at these polls now for a second. Okay? Real Clear Politics, which gives you averages, right? So they take a bunch, and so it's a little funny to use them. And usually I try to check and make sure that they haven't screwed around with the averages, because they are, they are skewed in one direction. Screwed? No, skewed in one direction. But Michigan, a state that Ted is extremely is extremely interested in, I know. He's very interested in Michigan.
That's right.
Well, Michigan is right now the average about a 0.3% average plus for Trump, 47.0 to 46.7. There are some polls where Trump has a bigger lead than that, and there is a poll where Biden has a lead, and that's what sort of tops it off that way. Pennsylvania is a little more solid. There's an average of about 7 polls, 47.8 to 45.5 for a plus 2.3 for Trump. This is really important because you're going to hear an NPR, PBS, Marist poll where the two of them are tied, although among people who are going to vote, Trump's up by a point nationally. But much more important are these. Like if he wins Michigan and the next one, where we just mentioned 2.3% in Pennsylvania, it's over.
Yeah.
Georgia, he's got a nice lead. A couple he's up by 6 or 7, a couple maybe 2 or 3. Averages out to almost 5% lead in Georgia, 48.5 to 43.7. And North Carolina, which we're pretty safe in, and I think getting safer, is a 5.3% lead. But he did win North Carolina. But those other 3 would be states that he didn't win, where he's got a small lead, a decent lead, and a big lead. Arizona, on the other hand, that he lost. Now, they didn't do an average on Arizona, but I looked at about 5 polls, and he's ahead between 10 and 11%. And if you go with a multi-candidate race, he's up by more. So Arizona looks like a big lead. And the strange thing is, Kerry Lake is behind by about 3%. Not impossible, not ridiculously behind. Just to take a few of the easy ones, Utah, he's ahead by 57.25. Like that, you don't even think about that, right? The most recent poll in Pennsylvania, he's up by 3. The most recent poll in Florida, he's up by 6, I'm sorry. And the most recent poll in Ohio, he's up by 7. In Minnesota, he is down by 1. I'm sorry, he's down by 3 in Minnesota. Now, the CNN analysis of the black vote. In 2020, I was wrong, actually. I thought Trump had more than this, but Trump had Biden had 86%, Trump has 7. Right now, Biden is down to, in their polling, 70% among black voters, and Trump is up to 21%. So that's 3 times more for Trump. And that's a swing of a lot of votes. If it comes out anything like that, then those states that we talked about, like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina in particular, big difference. Even make a difference in Florida, where he's got a decent lead, and Ohio. When I think of Cleveland, right? Other parts of the state. Not that it's a big vote, but it's a vote where Democrats count on 90% of it. If that becomes 70%, or a 70% and a 10% more than average stay at home, they lose the state. So the most recent presidential national poll, which in a way is strange. Now this poll is
The national poll say.
the national has them even at 49-49. But Biden in this poll in late May was leading 50-48. So it has Trump gaining, gaining 2 points really. Biden was +2 ahead of him in May. He's now even with him, except among those who definitely plan to vote, Trump is leading 50-49. And where has he made inroads? He's made inroads among independents. Trump was leading him among independents 54-42. He's among independents now 50-48. However, Trump is leading. This is an interesting percentage, even though I think this poll is a bit of bullshit. Here's an interesting percentage among people who have an unfavorable opinion of both. Who's leading? What do you think?
Trump.
48-41. Yeah.
Trump.
Yeah. That's really fascinating. They don't like either one. They'll vote for Trump.
Yeah, right? It's like, well.
And he's got beyond the margin of error. That's like a 7-point advantage there. Among white voters, he's gone from a 6-point advantage in May to a 12-point advantage in now. He's up to 55% to 43% now in white voters. And among non-white voters, Biden leads Trump by 18 points, which is not much. They're tied among voters under the age of 45, which is good for Trump. And Trump leads among older voters. And in a multi-candidate field, Trump wins by 1%. And Kennedy gets 11. A majority of Americans say that Trump would be better on the economy, 54-45. Trump is better on immigration by 10 points. Biden is better on abortion by 12 points. So Biden is good at, Trump is good at letting him have a better way of life, better economy. He's good at protecting you against rapists and murderers like the ones we see coming into the country. And Biden is good at killing embryos. And in some cases, babies in the 7th, 8th, and 9th month, which is what he favors, even though he says he's a Catholic or a human being. Americans divide 50-49 in who would handle the U.S. on the world stage. What are they, crazy? Are you crazy, Americans? Only 50-49? The guy doesn't even know when he's in Cambodia. He thinks he's in Colombia. He meets the Cambodian president. He thinks he's the president of Colombia and congratulates him on his victory. He can't tell the difference between a Cambodian and a Colombian. When he's in Cambodia and took a whole day to fly there, they must have said it to him at least 50 times. You're going to Cambodia. You're going to Cambodia. Say Cambodia, Joe. Cambodia. Say Cambodia, Joe. Cambodia. Then he comes out, he can't pronounce things either. Sign of a stupid, uneducated man. 50-46, Biden cares about the average man more. Like hell. Give a damn about he doesn't even give a damn about his granddaughter, much less the average man. Never even met his granddaughter. What a skunk. Not even man. You wouldn't be his friend. I wouldn't be friends with somebody that wouldn't acknowledge their granddaughter for political reasons. I'd figure the guy's evil. Inflation is number one. Preserving democracy is number 2. You can figure how this was flipped, right? Now, preserving democracy used to be much bigger in May. And now inflation has topped it, and immigration is 3rd. Healthcare is 4th. Abortion is 5th. Crime is 6th. So that's the sort of makeup right now. And let's see, have we had any luck with Karine Jean-Pierre?
Not yet. Still working on it.
Well, I don't think we have much time to look any longer. Why don't we take a short break and I'll take a try, okay? Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. So listen to this.
President Trump was convicted. How is it not a threat to democracy when you have a prosecutor from the same party as the president waiting 7 years to prosecute the political opponent in an election year?
I'm sorry, I don't.
How is it not a threat to democracy when you have a prosecutor of the same political party as the president waiting 7 years? The crime happened in 2017. To prosecute in an election year a former president who's now.
That's a question for the Department of Justice on their timeline and how this moves. I can't answer that for you here.
First thing she says is that the timeline moved by the Justice Department. Then the next day, Jean-Pierre told the Post that she meant Bragg and not the department.
Welcome back to the program. I'm James Morrow, and you're watching Outsiders with myself, Rowan Dean, and Reed.
So, which is true? Was the Department of Justice timeline, as she said the first time, without preparation, and then the next day she told the Post after the briefing that she meant Bragg, not the department. Of course, if it went on the Justice Department timeline, then all the allegations that Trump has made that it was coordinated by Biden and his Justice Department, who also has coordinated the 2 Smith cases. They handle it. It's theirs. They sent their own prosecutor to prosecute the Bragg case. They controlled the timeline according to her Freudian slip, when she didn't have a chance to go check with the liars in chief, she was telling the truth. It went on the Justice Department timeline. They wanted to get it in 2024 and give themselves a shot at a conviction, which they got right before the election. And then the Georgia one is pretty obvious. The timeline was set by the Justice Department and White House. since Loverboy went to the White House at least twice and charged the taxpayers a good sum of money for it. He charged, I think, one of the times for 24 hours of work. Must have been working really hard with the White House, trying to make sure the timing of that came in 2024 so they could indict him 4 times in 2024. All of it regulated by the Democrat Party. Remember, not only do we have Loverboy coming up here for meetings with the White House, but we have Fannie Ho getting her big campaign contributions in Washington, because people, Democrats all over the country, are so interested in the mixed up, very confused Fulton County DA, who also takes personal money out of her campaign account and gets away with it, even though she's admitted it under oath for the world to hear, which tells you how crooked Fulton County is. I think we should refuse to go to trial in Fulton County because it's too crooked to go to trial in. So, I mean, I don't see why we have to accept her clarification of what the first thought out of her mouth was, which is obviously the correct one, that the Bragg case was done on the Justice Department timeline. Bunch of liars. Bunch of miserable liars. Unbelievable. So Fauci testified today. He seems to be digging a bigger and bigger hole for himself. But it's a little like Biden. They just refuse to accept the fact. I mean, not only, why don't you just read Kennedy's book? It really is like Jesus, much better than a Bragg prosecution. At least it's a guilty man. I mean, the guy's got a motive too. The motive is money. He's a money man. I know he was the highest paid guy in the federal government, but you don't know how much he got in royalties. He's making millions. They never point that out. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get why they don't point certain things out. You know, I carry around with me the, here it is right here. Before we go, I have to show it to you because they constantly say, there's no evidence of Biden getting money. Can they see that?
Yeah, I can play that.
We'll sign off with this. This is December of 2018, famous year in which he bought the illegal gun. This would be evidence, so I would enter this as exhibit, government's exhibit 22, marked for identification. It's a text from Hunter Biden to his daughter, dated December, I think 25th, but I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly, 2018.
Hunter.
From Hunter to his daughter. To his daughter. And this is what it, and objection, Your Honor, it's hearsay. Your Honor, read it, it's an admission. Blah, 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 blah. The judge reads it, objection overruled, it's an admission, admitted. Then you read it to the jury. Hunter wrote this. I love all of you, but I don't receive any respect, and that's fine, I guess. Works for you, apparently. I hope you all can do what I did. And here comes the evidence. And pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. It's really hard. But don't worry, unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary. Didn't he just explain the RICO division of money, the racketeering division of money? And doesn't it explain everything? I mean, what was the question about Zlochevsky giving him and his firm $5, $6, $7, $8 million? What did he do for them? Well, he didn't do anything for him. He delivered his father. That's why he had to give his father half his salary and pay for all the expenses on the house, because it really was his father who was earning the money. They were expediting it. They were accommodating it. They were commonly known in New York and New York Democratic circles and criminality as the bagmen. But what were they buying? There was nothing to buy. Joe had no expertise. His firm had no expertise. Why would they give him $5-6 million for his father's influence? And in this particular case, in order to fix a case, which his father admitted, then you pay the tape. And Joe goes to jail for bribery. But don't tell me there's no evidence of his getting money. That's evidence. This is called evidence. This is evidence, particularly now that the hard drive has been validated 500 different ways. I think even the Pope has validated it. You know, the picture I also wanted to show was the picture of him putting his forehead on the Pope. I mean, the Pope is getting old too, but I wonder if he realizes there's something wrong with our president. But we'll show that tomorrow night. You have something to look forward to. Joe with his forehead hanging on the Pope. The guy who is in favor of 7, 8, and 9 month abortions, which means you've got to crush the skull. You've got to kill a baby. Most states is a double homicide. I don't get. And that's where the extremism is on abortion. That's where the extremism is. The killing of human beings. I don't think anybody disagrees that an 8 or 9 month year old in the womb is a human being. I mean, now, even before extremely modern technology, they would survive, for sure, as well as a 9 month old. And then we have the former governor of Virginia, which hopefully is going to go Republican, because to have had a nutty governor like this would have to have been traumatic. But this guy thought, if the abortion went bad and the baby was born and the mother had been sedated, the mother should be given a little time when it wakes up to decide whether it wants the baby, or she and the doctor can take measures to abort at that point. Abort? No, kill at that point. That's called a first-degree murder, jackass. Well, we'll be back tomorrow. Plenty to cover here. Next week, we're going to be on from 7 to 8 on Frank's. And we'll get you all the information as to how you can find that. And then we'll be here at 8. So we'll have 2 hours in a row. And we'll break it up into a show in which we do analysis of the 3 or 4 major stories, and then we'll do what we do now, which is make sure we get you all of the news that has been you've been deprived of, and we'll cover both, and we'll also have more time for guests, and we'll have more time for discussion with my very interesting group, Dr. Maria and Ted, and then occasionally Rob and Mike, and then the people who come in and join with us, like Justine, and we just got to have a whole crew that we love to talk to, and we'll bring in a whole new group, a whole bigger group, because I've always wanted to have more time, and now we're going to have it. So we look forward to next week. We'll get you more information about that tomorrow, and we'll see you at 3:00 on X or whatever, Rumble. You got it, wherever you are. And we'll see you at 8 tomorrow night on the same group of channels.
That's right. And we just want to give another quick update with 80% reporting in Virginia's 5th Congressional District Republican primary. John McGuire, the Trump and Giuliani endorsed candidate, leads incumbent Bob Good by just about 500 votes, 25,559 to 24,994. So this is going to come
How much counted? How much counted?
80% in. So there's still about 10, maybe even more than 10,000 votes outstanding. And it really depends on where those votes are coming.
It has a 500 vote margin?
500 vote margin, which translates to That translates to, and of course we're seeing these numbers change now. 1%. So now McGuire leads by about 600 votes, so 1 percentage point. So they're coming in evenly across the district, it seems like. So it may be tough, but 1,000 votes can be made up when you have
1,000 votes can be made up. I mean, you'd rather be in his spot.
Yeah.
But you don't concede. And of course, if it stays 400 or 500, you'll do a recount.
Yeah. This is going to be a close ending. It looks like it just
unless he did he go up from 500 to 600?
I rounded, so I'd have to really look. I could have been about even. It just now you can see that it's about 600.
You really, we don't know the district, so you really have to know the district
where the outstanding votes are. But those outstanding votes could be it's still could be anyone's.
Yeah.
Right. But like you said, you'd rather be John right now, and we'll have to get John on.
Who has
watching that vote very closely?
Who has the organization support? The Republican organization.
They're pushing hard for McGuire, but when you say organization, it's one of those cases where Bob Good has bothered a lot of people. He stabbed President Trump in the back when he endorsed.
How long has he been in Congress?
Since 2020.
Good.
He primaried somebody and attacked him for Denver Riggleman. You have to look into that story. It's interesting. He thought that this one guy was a little bit too middle of the road, but I'll leave it at that for now. And so Bob Good has been there, and he just bothered a lot of people. So Trump has endorsed his opponent. We endorsed his opponent. You met with him. He was on the show. Great guy. Loves the mayor. And so we'll see. This will come out of the wire. So watch closely. I hate to say it, but I do go to the New York Times. They have live.
Okay. They're going to be. They're probably neutral on that one. Although they'd probably like the guy who doesn't like Trump better, right?
Just by default, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say probably that's right.
Yeah. So
okay, well, pray for the people of Israel. Pray for the people of the United States, and God bless America.
Sign off.
Teaches school. Some folks say it isn't cool, but she says the pledge of allegiance anyway. He's got the red, white, blue flying high on the farm. Semper Fi tattooed on his left arm. Spent a little more in the store for a tag, and the back it says USA. He won't buy nothing that he can't fix. With WD-40 and a Craftsman wrench, he ain't prejudiced. He's just made in America. Born in a heartland, raised up a family, King James and Uncle Sam. He's got the red, white, blue flying high on the farm. Semper Fi tattooed on his left arm. Spent a little more in a store for a tag, and the back it says USA. Won't buy nothing that he can't fix. With WD-40 and a Craftsman wrench, he ain't prejudiced. He's just made in America.
Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply